Hi there, I'm Myrna Selzler Park, and I'm here today with my son, Liam Danger Park, and my mom, Grandma Rita. And we have been doing for about 4 weeks now a podcast called Mom and Me and ADHD. And this is our fourth in a series of that. So just to bring you up to speed, about 2 years ago, I think Liam was diagnosed with ADHD at age 27, which surprised the heck out of me. And then he just looked at me and shook his head and said, well, Mom, you've got ADHD. And sure enough, I do. And so we've been having some really interesting conversations about it. And that's why I'm inviting people in to listen to our conversations. And hopefully they get some value from it today. So Grandma Rita is going to step out, so you'll miss her partway through, because she's at age 86 is going to go look at a real estate investment. A true entrepreneur, even though she never was an entrepreneur in her regular work life. So Liam, last week we were talking about social
rejection sensitive dysphoria.
Rejection sensitive dysphoria. So for the people that are listening, could you give us a definition of that?
Gosh, last week I said I was going to look up a definition and I didn't, but it's roughly like, it's a symptom of ADHD that isn't commonly talked about or known about, where like people with ADHD are more susceptible to intense feelings of social rejection, like perceived rejections. You know, it's not always because someone is actually mean to you, but you feel like they are.
You think that they're mad at you or something like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, like it's easy to think they're mad at you, disappointed in you, frustrated with you, they don't like you. I was meeting with Coach Dan Duncan a week or two ago, and he talked a bit about this with a client he's working with, how like there's a lot of ways that people with ADHD sort of perceive aspects of the world as either 0 or 10. Like we don't really have a very good gradient in our like emotional processing. Mm-hmm. And so he said like he had a client who basically thought all his friends hate him. And I've felt like that, and I've seen that in people I know. And it's like, it's because like we know that we're quirky. We know there's things that our friends don't like about us, and we forget that there are things that they do like about us. And so, yeah, that's basically rejection sensitive dysphoria.
Very interesting. Okay, so we'll get Grandma says it's interesting, but she's off to look at some real estate. So we'll play it for her one day when we can teach her how to run her iPad better.
Okay.
Okay. So I've been thinking about this quite a bit because I've been in sales my entire adult life. And I think I was in sales when I was a little kid going door to door selling tickets to the Knights of Columbus bingo in downtown Viking, Alberta. And some things that I did as techniques is I learned to realize that particularly in sales, when people said no to me, they didn't really mean no, is how I reframed it, is they just didn't really understand the question. And obviously, I had not given them sufficient information in a format that they could understand so that they would, in fact, say yes to me. So saying no, I reframed it as, I need to repackage this. I need to come at it from another angle. And one of the things that I learned, this would be only about 20 years ago, only in my career, this company I was pitching a really big contract to kept putting me off. And when I finally got in to see them, within half an hour, I had the big contract. And just as we were wrapping up the conversation, they gave me just this brief explanation and said something to the effect like, we're really sorry it took so long to meet you. Like this was going on in our organization, this and this and this. And it occurred to me that when people are saying no to me or rejecting me, another thing that they may be doing is saying the equivalent of my dog died. So I also think about it as when people say no to me or they don't get back to me when I think that they should get back to me in a timely fashion, I think, oh, their dog died. They're preoccupied with other things in their life. I'm not the most important thing in their life right now. When they get over their dog dying, their figurative dog dying, they'll get back to me. And when I reframed it as their dog died, I don't take it personally. I just think that means something else is going on in their life that is more important than what I have to offer. And although what I have to offer is important, there's certainly way more important things in everybody's individual lives. You know, like you find, and it's really quite surprising. Sometimes you go back and you find out, well, their parent has been seriously ill, their kid got sick, their daycare didn't take care of their kid. They broke their leg skiing. Like, you don't know what it is, but when I reframe it as their dog died, I don't take it so personally.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I've adopted a similar habit because I know for years I had a lot of insecurity because I don't know, like not everyone's ADHD is different, but I know there's a certain section of ADHD people who can make friends fast. And I had like for a while, like 2,000 Facebook friends. How often would any of them message me? Never. Like
You
I
care?
hardly.
Did you
Hmm?
care if they didn't message you?
I did for a while, not
Like,
like
I view that as an interruption in the regular span of my exciting little life that I lead.
yeah, like I wouldn't want 2,000 people messaging me on the regular, but I mean like almost no one ever messaged me is what I felt, and I think was reasonably true. And for a while that felt kind of like, who are these people? Like, do they actually care to be part of my life? What's going on? But eventually, I don't know how, I found the empathy and the distance for myself to back up a little and um to ask like, well, when did I message them last?
Oh yeah. Like, it's
Uh,
not a, it's a two-way street, not a one-way street.
yeah, and most of the time I don't message them either. And like, you can't really hold someone to a higher expectation than you hold yourself to.
Yeah.
And so at least like that doesn't necessarily help with feeling snubbed by something someone says, but but sometimes, like I said, it's the perceived rejection. It's like people didn't have to say anything. I would make things up if they didn't say anything to me. But I learned that, yeah, like dogs die, parents get sick, people take on new jobs that overwhelm them, uh, or people create a limited picture of you based on this one interaction they had, and they decide that that doesn't really align with what they want in their life, but they don't really know who you are and they don't really feel like investing the time to find out. But that's not like they're saying screw you. They're saying like screw this part of you, and that's all they know. Like,
Yeah. So I was getting, so that's two. Like, what was my dog died. What was the first one I said?
you didn't give them enough
I
information.
didn't give them enough information, so I'd come back to it another day. Well, the third one that I thought about today was about this or something better. And what that means to me is, if a contract, for example, in my consulting business doesn't come together, I think, oh, this or something better. That means there's a better contract down the road. So I'll just keep moving, because by not getting this one, it saves me the time and opportunity to have that bigger, better contract. So I leave that one behind without remorse. And I look at what learning I got from that, and where can I take what I got from even the preparation of that proposal, for example, to the next level. But when I go to this or something better, I can leave it behind, and I'm looking forward instead of looking back about what did I do wrong.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that's a good perspective. It reminds me of a parable that I tell people all the time. And I often send people, if you want to hear a really beautiful voice say this, look up Alan Watts and the story of the Chinese farmer. It only takes like a minute though, so I'll put it out here. It's like, it's this story of a Chinese farmer. So this, I don't know why he's Chinese. So this guy, his horse runs away, and the neighbors come by and say, "Oh man, that's bad luck. Your horse ran away." The farmer says, "Maybe." Next day, the horse comes back and it brings 3 wild horses with it. So now he has 4 horses. And the neighbors come by and say, "Wow, that is so lucky. Now you have 4 times, like you got 300% increase in horses. You got so many horses. That's awesome." And the farmer says, "Maybe." The next day, his son is out training the horse and like gets bucked off one of them and breaks his leg. The neighbors come by and they say, "Oh man, that's really bad luck. If only those wild horses didn't come back, your son wouldn't have broke his leg." And the farmer says, "Yeah, maybe." And the next day, the army comes through town and they're taking all able-bodied young men, but they can't take his son because he's got a broken leg. And the neighbors say, wow, that's such good luck. Your son doesn't have to go to war. The farmer says, maybe. And I think there's a big truth in that story. It's that if you judge, you can't really judge most circumstances as good or bad in a moment. So yeah, being rejected from a job, yeah, maybe that's the best thing ever. Someone was telling me a story the other day about Bill Murray, who knows, may have ADHD. He's certainly not normal.
I'll bet money he has ADHD.
Yeah, but Bill Murray was apparently a med student. He was going through med school. This is a rumor. I didn't verify it.
Okay.
But he was doing quite well, from what I understand. And then something happened. He was in an airport, and I guess he had like 25 pounds of marijuana on him. And he got kicked out of med school. He got into a lot of trouble. And then he became the Bill Murray we all know and love, this comedic genius who now people revere and write legends about.
Yeah.
So like, was it bad that he got busted for 25 pounds of weed or whatever? It probably felt pretty bad at the moment.
And his parents probably thought it was pretty bad.
Yeah, but if it hadn't happened, we'd have no, Ghostbusters or
Yeah. It is so much about having, and I guess that's sort of a Stoic philosophy too, is having the 30,000-foot view, like having the bigger view, the longer view, and yeah, not examining things in that moment in time.
Yeah.
That really does change everything. Like, for example, when I had a pinched nerve on my neck, and it took a while for me to diagnose it, and like that is suicide inducing pain. To have a pinched nerve, like nerve pain, is just terrible. And but after a period of time, I got it diagnosed and I got it fixed, and everything was good. But I think what my friends would tell me is cosmic 2x4 number 1, and I didn't listen to it. Well, cosmic 2x4 number 2 was getting diagnosed with breast cancer, and then I listened to it. Well, I think I've listened to it, but it's been really interesting. Because my perspective when I was diagnosed and I was all alone in the middle of the night, you're thinking, oh my God, what does this mean? Am I going to live? Am I going to die? Whatever. Or is there a middle ground? Always looking for options, that ADHD brain. Yeah. And I would focus on, I am so blessed. What is the learning here? What is the other side of this going to look like? How exciting will it be? How much fun will it be? How interesting will it be? And that would be what I would talk to myself about in the middle of the night. This sounds bad. Like, it sounds bad that the farmer's son broke his leg, but what was the good of it? So what's the good going to come out of this? Like this or something better? And I'm now we are almost 4 years into the initial diagnosis, and I'm having a flipping riot. Like, I'm just having a really good time with my life. Yeah. And doing things and taking risks, like doing this podcast with you, that I wouldn't do, but it's because I've got that longer view. Like, and if this goes nowhere, who cares? Like my buddy Brian that I met on a Zoom call like 9 months ago, and now we see each other every week. Well, I don't know if we'll ever see each other physically, but what he says is, even if these talks between us go nowhere, he thinks that for you at some point in time to be able to show these talks to your children that don't yet exist, they'd learn so much about their dad, and I may or may not be here. And so they would learn about me as well. So it's looking beyond the initial opportunity, or what is right in front of us, and taking the long view, the view from 30,000 feet, the mile long view. Yeah. Yeah. And that's something I've been thinking about lately too, that archival value of things. Yeah. Is like my great grandparents, my grandparents could have, labored over a typewriter if they wanted. They're busy being farmers, I think, though. Yeah, like it would have been a lot of work and hassle. And before that, their parents could have labored over a quill and an ink pot. And I'd know more about who they are. And I don't know much about them. But like, a lot of people are trying to write books now, right? We're like, it's very popular because we all have
either Microsoft Word or Google Docs, at least, you can edit and write easy. You can
But
get it
nobody reads
self-published.
books anymore.
Yeah, but like you can record an incredible amount of information. Like you can do this, the video too.
Yeah.
And people are held back by fear of like, what if it doesn't succeed, or what if people hate it? And it's like, yeah, like it depends on your measure of success and who you care about liking it. Because if you want a book to sell 50,000 or 1,000,000 copies, well, that's an ambitious goal. Good luck. It would be really cool, I'm sure. But if you write a book and maybe your great grandparent or grandchildren can read it, like to me, that seems like success. Your great grandchildren can have a view into how you saw the world today. Like that's a cool measure of success. And that might not make you $5. Like that's not gonna pay the bills, but it's this different motivator. And if you get hung up on the star culture, the celebrity motivator,
the external validation,
yeah,
internal validation. Yeah. I've been writing for almost a year now, writing a column pretty much on leadership. And what has been so good about it is because sometimes I get like, I don't know how many reads. Doesn't matter to me how many reads I get. But the learning that comes to me personally by having to write it, and especially with the ADHD brain, to organize my thoughts and yet make it engaging enough that someone will actually want to read it, including me. I don't bore myself. That's the process has been more important to me than the outcome. Because the learning, because I started a book, a year and a half ago when I was hiking, and I want to finish it. But I want to go through it now with the practice that I've had and what I've learned about sentence structure and words and getting rid of 2 words per sentence, the 2-word rule, things like that. It's completely changed it. So the journey, we need to give validation to the journey, not the societal validation of it, perhaps. Not even perhaps, that we do.
Yeah.
That was not putting my stake in the ground.
That's what we call soft talk.
Yeah, and I can soft talk pretty damn good.
Yeah, I think we all struggle with that. It's very common with everyone, especially Canadians and probably people with ADHD.
Because sometimes I can think things that could be quite harsh. Like I remember in one class I was in, this person was wasting everybody's time. Like they were going to kill her at the next break. I was sure of that. Like it was just terrible. And so I decided I would speak out. But how I broached it was, with the greatest of respect, could we keep our questions to the last 15 minutes of the morning class and the afternoon class? And everybody knew what I was talking about. I'm not sure she got it, but at least we set a parameter so that we could control the environment. But it was that with the greatest of respect, in terms of, I'm not picking on you, although I am, like that was that nice little bridge.
Yeah.
But it got the job done. And I've learned, because if I say things, we say things too harshly, people can't hear them, they reject them. But and sometimes one of the coaching techniques I learned too is about asking people permission. Is it okay if I just give you another perspective on this?
Yeah.
And if they say, well, I'm kind of happy with my perspective, well, then just shut up. But most often they won't, because they'll want to be polite too.
Yeah.
My friend is just masterful at this.
This is a powerful skill that I haven't seen talked about much in the ADHD world, but it's like, the fact is, you can try to control yourself all you like, but there's going to be moments where you want to impulsively blurt something out. But if you can train yourself to make that first impulse, can I have permission to like?
Yeah, these are my first impulse buttons. Okay, you can bleep some of this out, right? These are my first impulse buttons.
You've got to be kidding me.
Oh, my mic's here.
You've got to be kidding me.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, and this is the one with like the eyes rolled back in the head, and I just no.
That one was a little quieter. Can you? Is the sound coming out the other side of it?
It's coming out right there. You're gonna have to do a lot of repeating.
They'll get the idea. Like I can hear it, but it's a little quieter.
This was
Yeah.
Okay, that was recorded in a gym change room with one of my buddies
That's
on my
funny.
iPhone. Then I sent it off to China and used it as a fundraising thing, just on a whim. The kind of thing a person thinks.
Before diagnosis. But yeah, like if you're going to impulsively blurt something out, if you can train yourself to impulsively blurt out with the utmost respect, or would you mind if I share my perspective on this?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, sometimes you can't hold your tongue, and it doesn't serve you to stew and brood. It will distract you from a conversation if you don't get this stuff out sometimes.
But again, if you say something and you like the moment it's out of your mouth, you go, oh, that I'd love to pull that one back in, roll that, unwind that clock, right? But if you can just say, ooh, that came out a little bit harsher than I thought. Like once it's out, you could maybe even just say, maybe I could rephrase that. Like, but
Yeah.
in the moment, or even if sometimes you go home and you reflect and you sleep on it, you go, oh, I should never have said or done that. An apology, like at least you're making your effort, right?
Yeah.
You can apologize for the hurt feelings. You might not apologize for the comment because you still may believe the comment to be true, but apologize that it did in fact offend them or hurt them in some way because that was not your intention. And that's an interesting thing just to go and to deviate about intention, because we judge ourselves by our intentions and we judge everybody else by their actions. And that's an important distinction.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a little distracted there because like my brain was going to like, this reminds me of one of my videos that's done best is like a 1-minute short video about verbal processing, which is another ADHD thing. It's like not everyone with ADHD has this, but a lot of people with ADHD find they think most effectively out loud. And a lot of them don't even really recognize this. And the people around them don't recognize it, especially. And there can be a lot of tension that comes from that. Because, yeah, sometimes you say something awful. And so I find it's been very helpful in me when I've been having a challenging conversation to sort of explain verbal processing, which maybe I'll link to in wherever I post that video to explain it a little better. But to start by saying like, look, sometimes when I have a thought, I need to speak it out and it comes out a little rough. The things I say, I don't necessarily believe. I'm just feeling these ideas out and trying to navigate and shape my thoughts. So if they come out bad and upset you, just understand that like I'm just working through it myself.
Well, and what I've learned is especially like there's certain behavioral styles that if you start doing that, they take you at your word. Like they believe what you say, even though you're just verbal processing, they take you at your word that you really mean that you're going to do that. And you've sent them down another rabbit hole and they absolutely hate it. So I've learned that there's people, behavioral styles that I should not verbal process with. And there are people that I can, and I can just free will, and then we'll consolidate and come to like a more consolidated package. And then I can present to those people. But if I present to those people too soon, those other styles that are not ADHD, they just think I'm a whack job, right? And here we go again. Whereas it isn't really here we go again. Here we explore again is what I'm thinking. Here we just go and create.
Yeah, I find like even with people of different behavioral styles, if you can give them that like a little bit of that preamble, it definitely makes it easier. Like my wife, Kitty, she is more like linear and literal. She only says necessary things, which is great. All the power to her. That's a great thing. But I definitely feel like we've had fewer conflicts in our relationship since I sort of discovered verbal processing and was able to explain that like sometimes I say things I don't believe just because I'm wondering out loud and I'm trying to formulate my thoughts. So if you have questions about what I'm saying, or if you're upset by what I'm saying, please let me know, because I'm still figuring it out myself, but I need to figure it out loud.
Okay. So maybe the next segment should be about verbal processing, and we can go into that a little bit deeper. But I just want to talk about one thing that I discovered. I used to do a lot of business coaching for people that were starting their new businesses, like just like really early days. And most often they don't go well early days. Like it's a tough gig starting a new business. And I would ask them to say, okay, here's your business. what if you did, and it's not going well. I'll give you an example. One guy was starting a coffee company that was going to take coffee into different companies, different offices and organizations, businesses. And it wasn't going that well because he had really stiff competition. But at that time, nobody was delivering water as well. So I said, what if you also delivered coffee, but offered them water so that they had one less supplier to deal with? And then you could be the one-stop shop for it. And all I wanted him to do was mentally imagine going out there, see what it felt like to offer water as well, and come back into the circle and see if he could visualize incorporating that into his business. And that's sort of some of that verbal processing that I was trying to do. And he could not go outside that circle for any new idea. And hence his business didn't make it because he stayed stuck in this one space. So there's a time and a place where verbal processing can lead to really great ideas, but people have to be willing to even mentally go to those other places. They have those other visualizations about how life could be, how their business could be, how their relationships could be. So
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the things I see as an ADHD superpower, and some people don't. Some people hate the idea of ADHD superpowers, but I think wonder and curiosity is
and
a
weird
common
connection.
aspect of ADHD.
Yeah, like weird connection of these ideas that are rambling, right?
Yeah, and just the power of what if,
Mm-hmm.
like wondering, what if we also delivered water? Because like as a tea snob, I'm not much of it. Like I don't drink much coffee. I appreciate coffee, but I can't handle the caffeine. But if I was making a cup of tea at work, I would want there to be good water there,
Yes.
right? Because it makes a difference, and it probably makes a difference for the coffee too. Like if you want good coffee, like you can make coffee with tap water, but you're probably going to make a nicer cup of coffee with some spring water, filtered water, whatever, something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if you're not willing to entertain that idea and you can't get your foot in the door, well, yeah, no business.
No business. And that's what happens. So something to think about for next time. So we're approaching the half-hour mark. So I suppose we should wrap this up. Any final comments about the rejection? I can't even remember that. It's just way too many words. Like
Rejection sensitive dysphoria. It's often RSD.
RSD. Okay, rejection sensitive dysphoria. So my ideas were like, just don't get too wrapped up in it.
Yeah, like it can be really hard when you're feeling it to intellectually save yourself from it. But I think if you're not feeling it, like especially when you're not feeling it, prime yourself with these questions. Like ask, like, is it possible these people are as clumsy at communicating as I am? Is it possible that these people have some things going on in their life that I don't understand or know about? Is it possible that missing this opportunity is going to be a new opportunity for me? Yeah. And like, because yeah, like I remember, I encourage anyone listening to find an example in their life. Find at least one specific example of a time you felt horrible, you were hurt really bad, and then in hindsight, it was really good for you. Like for me, I think of like, this is one that maybe a lot of people could relate to, probably several. I had a high school girlfriend, like many people do, and she broke up with me after we'd been together a year or two or whatever. I don't remember now, but at the time it was colossal. I felt devastated. I felt horrible. And then about like within a year later, it was clear to me that I had been like overly dependent, not meeting my needs. It was not really a healthy relationship. It wasn't awful, like it wasn't an abusive relationship, but it wasn't healthy. And so now I was able to see that very clear rejection that hurt very bad was actually really good for me. And so if you can find something like that in your life, to remember, to bring to mind anytime you feel that rejection, that can be a powerful tool. And to remember the Chinese farmer.
Well, and just in terms of speaking about your girlfriend, I think through that process, like time has passed and you've managed to stay friends, and she and Kitty can be friends. because
Yeah.
you got this new perspective as well. And
Yeah,
I
there's
have
no
friends too.
awkwardness. There's no like, she is my ex. Like, yeah, well, she's cool. Like, I appreciate why I liked her. I also appreciate that I was young and not emotionally mature, and I didn't handle that relationship as well as I could have. And like, maybe she's got an aspect of it too, but I'm taking ownership of what I can, and she's not a bad person,
No.
and I wasn't either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So food for thought, things for people to reflect on and perhaps reframe as they're going for a long drive or even a short drive and they get a chance to just be quiet by themselves and think about that and think about the good that came out of it, like this or something better.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Liam. So it's been Mom and Me and ADHD round 4.
Yeah. See you next week.
See you next week. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Right. You gonna stop recording now?
Yes, I will.